Hi, it's Darnell with Whale and Recipes, and today I'm going to be making whole wheat bagels. I'm going to be using a variety of countertop appliances to accomplish this. I'll use the Zojirushi Virtuoso Plus Breadmaker to make the dough, and I'll use the Gourmia French Door XL digital air fry oven for the proofing and the baking. I'll also be using the New Wave pick to basically do a step where some water is involved in making bagels, and I'll show you that as well. But one interesting thing that we'll find out in this process is whether the Gourmia's dehydrate function can function as a proofing function, even though dehydration is made to really suck water out of things, to dry things up. Maybe doing it for a low temp at a short period of time can function almost as well as proof with other cookers, because the Gourmia is so large. If the dehydrate can function as a proofer for short periods of time, then that's pretty cool. You've got a really large proofer, even though the Gourmia French Door XL digital air fry oven doesn't have a proof feature. Maybe dehydrate can do that for you, and we'll find out. And so let's get cooking right now. And so I want to start by mentioning that this recipe is inspired by Zojirushi's recipe book that comes with the Breadmaker. But if you want to do this with like bread flour or some other flour, then you'd have to consult their recipe book, and that comes with the cooker. But this is basically my spin on a recipe that was one of theirs that is inspired by them, but my own recipe because I'm doing it differently with some whole wheat flour and things. So the first ingredient, and I do want to stress, you want to have the paddles in the same direction. It's really more of a need when you're doing bread and things that are baked in here than with just making dough, but still have them in the same direction. Put all the ingredients into the pot in the manner that I'm using. This is a 2-pound bread maker. I have no guidance for you if you don't have a Zojirushi Virtuoso Plus bread maker, because other bread makers may not perform the same, and I've had some others, and so I know, you know, they don't all perform the same. That's why I got this one. And there's full review and basically other cooks and things in this bread maker here on the channel, as well as over 800 other videos. But the first ingredient is 1.5 cups of water. And so just pouring that in there. You don't want to worry about if the paddles move after you pour some water in, because the agitators that move the paddles are still in their same position. Those aren't going to move with it locked in here. So going to move on to the next ingredient. Next ingredient is 3¼ cup of whole wheat flour, finely ground. So pouring that all in there. Next ingredient is 1/2 cup of vital wheat gluten. This helps things rise, especially when you're using wheat flour. Putting that around the edges. So just doing like that there. Next ingredient, you want to use 2 tablespoons of the granulated sweetener of your choice, unless you're using organic monk fruit extract powder, which I'm using in this case. And so I'm only going to use 3/4 of a teaspoon of the organic monk fruit extract powder, because a very little bit of it goes a very long way. It's a very potent sweetener with a very low glycemic impact. So putting that on in there like that. And real quick, I'm going to take the end of the measuring spoon, just make a little well here in the middle of my dough. That's where my yeast will go in a moment after I put some more ingredients in. Next ingredient is 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm using sea salt, putting that on the ends there. Final ingredient is yeast. You can use rapid rise yeast or bread machine yeast. Putting that into the little well that I made there. And so with that in, I'm closing things up. Got a little dough here on the side wall, knocking that down. Now I'm going to close things up. And going to use the dough course, which is already set, so it tells me when it's going to be done. Hit start, and we'll just let it go ahead and make the dough. Since it's going to start moving things around in there, I moved the Breadmaker back so it doesn't fall off the edge. But I'll bring you back when things are done as far as the initial dough making here. Alright, so while the dough is still kneading, I noticed that my dough is really way too dry. It's way too dry. So I'm adding another half cup of water. So basically that'll be 2 cups of water total. Things haven't got to the point where it does the beat to add like fruit or anything yet. But that extra water will help to make that dough a little less clumpy. But still got ways to go. I'll bring you back when it's done making the dough. Alright, so I happened to be delayed by a couple of hours. So the dough basically sat and rose in the bake pan of the Breadmaker, but it's still dough. So it looks like a loaf of bread, but it's not. So basically, I'm just going to dump it out here and continue this process. Although it's already did some rising on its own, we'll go through all the steps anyway. But basically at this point, look at this kneading rod got stuck in there. Alright. So now what needs to be done is to take this and cut it into 10 pieces. So I'm going to basically cut it into 10 pieces. They're not all evenly sized. Some are a little bigger than others, but I just like to eyeball things. I don't care to make a perfect, evenly set size 10. But basically what you do at this point, roll them into balls. You want to make 10 dough balls, so I'm going to get these all rolled into balls now. Alright, now what you would do, but I'm not going to do it since it's been setting so long anyway, you're supposed to let it, after you roll them into balls, set for 20 minutes covered, but I think that they've already had plenty of sufficient time to set. So I'm going to move forward to the next step. And the next step is to basically take these, stick finger in them, and make donut shapes basically. So, like I've done with this one here. Don't worry about the hole being very big. If things are cooked and proofed and so on, that hole will almost disappear. They'll look very much like bagels. So, just basically making donut shapes here with all 10 of these. Alright, now that I've got my 10 donut shapes there, I'm going to take some parchment paper, cut it into 10 individual pieces, about the size of the donuts or pre-bagels, a little larger, and going to put each piece on the bake pan here that I have for the Gourmia. Alright, now that I've got the parchment paper set out on the bake pan, I'm just going to take the 10 donut shaped pieces of dough, set them each on a piece of parchment paper as best I can. Alright, so with them all set out now, I'm going to try and do the proofing step anyway, even though they've probably already, those already done plenty of proofing. But we're going to go through that step anyway. So, putting things on rack level 4, close up, and I'll turn the cooker so you can, we'll turn the camera so you can see. Alright, turn things on, going to go to dehydrate and go down to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. For time, I'm going to give it 30 minutes, that's the least you can do. You're supposed to give about 20 minutes of proofing time, but I'll give them 30. And so it's actually dehydrating, but we'll see if it does proof as dehydrate. So I'll bring you back in a bit. A few minutes in the proofing, something I forgot to do, so I'm going to just pause the cooker. I'm supposed to spray things with water before starting the proofing. Spray it over good. Get it nice and wet. Alright. Things feel pretty, pan feels pretty hot. So, I'll let them go ahead and go. I think I'm going to stop them after, because it's supposed to just proof for 20 minutes. I'll just go ahead and let them go till 7 minutes or less. So 20 minutes with water on them, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so things have been proofing for 20 minutes since I put the water on, so I'm going to stop the cooker now, turn it off. But here's our dough after proofing. I do believe things have risen a good bit. So what I need to do now, I'm going to get these onto probably a couple plates. While I'm getting these onto the plates, what I have here is a gallon of water in a large pot. What I need to do is get this boiling, and then after getting it boiling, get it down to maybe about 200 degrees or so. I want it to basically have very slow bubbles coming up, and then start putting these in and letting them run for 30 minutes on each side. So basically to start out, I'm just going to take it, max it out to get it boiling, and then bring it down. Alright, so the water is starting to boil a little bit. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a tablespoon of honey, raw honey, and put it into the pot there, and let that tablespoon of honey dissolve. See the bubbling starting to pick up. Alright, drop the honey in there. Alright, with that in, I'm going to lower the temp now. So, setting it to about 200. See if I can get the bubbles just kind of slowly bubbling. Well, that's not good enough. Just want a slow, small bubble situation. I think because I've got so much water, as soon as I turned it down, it just stopped. Alright, so that gives us quick bubbles on high. Medium high, we still got bubbles. I'm down to medium. Getting slowing down of the bubbles. We'll take this down slow. Alright, I'm at 260 and I'm getting some light bubbling. I think that's about where I want it. So now I'm going to, with the paper on the donut, because it's stuck to the paper, that's okay. Just drop it in. Drop about 3 of these in. I probably can fit 4, so maybe 4. Basically going to wait 30 seconds, flip, and then do the other side. I might do more than 30, but you know. I'm going to go ahead and flip these. The paper should start coming off easily, like that one. Paper should start falling off of them or be easier to peel off at this point, but I'll just give them 30 seconds on this side. And while they're on this side, I'll try and get paper off of them. after doing that, you want to get them out and try and get some of that excess water off. Just let some of that excess water drain. And get them over here onto the bake pan with parchment paper. I got it lined with a full layer of parchment paper. Get these out. Basically going to do the same process for all 10 of them. While I'm doing this 30 seconds on each side thing, I'm going to start preheating the cooker. Although I have the bake pan on top of it, I'm going to go ahead and continue like that anyway. So hitting start, going to bake, and I'm going to go to 375. And for cook time, it's going to take 15-20 minutes. I'll just leave it at 30, and I know you can't see the display, but I'll take my word for it. Hitting start. So I'll let that basically be doing the preheating while I'm finishing this. Alright, so this is how they all look after coming out of the water. Look pretty nice. And we'll wait for the preheat to be done, and then we'll get them on in. Time to get them in. Preheat is done. Using rack level 4 here. So just going to let them run, and we'll see how they look after about maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes. I probably should spin it too. So I'm going to let it run for 10, and then I'm going to spin the rack. Alright, it's been about 10 minutes. Going to pause things and spin the rack for a very even cook, Lord willing. Let's see how those look. Ooh, not even. Still not even. Am I even now? Yeah, I guess I'm even now. Okay. So I'll let these go for a little while longer, and then I guess I'll stop it. Maybe 5 more minutes, maybe 10. We'll see. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes. Going to pause. Just kind of feel things out a little bit. Yeah, I think they're done. There you go. I'm going to get these out on plate, but you can let me know on plates, but you can let me know what you think, how they look. So they come right off of the parchment paper pretty easily. It's pretty cool. And that's what parchment paper is for. So got those 5. Move those back. Get 5 more. See, that's the bottom there. Yeah, it's done. Feels done. Yep. See, top and bottom. Looks pretty good. So here's our finished product. 10 freshly baked bagels. Now I'm going to put the wire rack in, because now that I've got bagels, I could actually try toasting a bagel. So I'm going to take this one here, try and slice it. It's still pretty hot. I need pot holders to hold this thing, it's so hot. Alright, this is the inside of the bagel. Then I just cut, sorry, you couldn't really see when I was cutting it. I was cutting one, but that's the inside of one. But I'm going to stick it in here. I think you're supposed to put this side down. think. It's been a while since I did that initial review, but any of you who saw it more recently than I made it can remind me. I'm going to use, let's see, 2. We'll just let that run. Alright, I feel like they've toasted long enough. I'm ready to move along here, so I'm just stopping things. They were already hot going in, so that's how it looks there. Top feels pretty crusty. The inside's nice and soft. Regardless whether I did or didn't put them in upside down. But basically we've got the toasted bagels and the non-toasted bagels here. And let's go ahead and do a quick taste test. Alright, so here's the toasted, non-toasted, and thank God for both. So, of course, you know, you can put whatever condiments or whatever you want on your bagels, but for this taste test, I just like to do it straight, just to taste what was cooked alone without it being tampered with at all. So thank God for it, and I'm going to taste the toasted one first. And now the non-toasted. Alright, those are really good. I do prefer toasted to non-toasted. Turned out well. You can basically make your own bagels at home, and you saw how it's done here, the dehydrate. It seems like it does kind of like, you know, even though it does do a proofing if you do use dehydrate, the tops do get a little, maybe a little harder than they would with cookers that have a dedicated proof because it's got the fan going. So it seems like it just kind of like hardens the top just a little bit proof, but not too much. It's not a problem. Things grow up nice and you can still bake them and everything. Basically, you can use the dehydrate in this cooker, kind of like proofing, just as long as you're not doing it for too long. But it worked out, so you can do it. So, basically, nothing in this video is sponsored, nothing given to me. And there's lots of ways to help the channel. You can always check out my blog, superwaveovenrecipes.com. That's superwaveovenrecipes.com. Also in the video description, there's things like my cookbook, merch, membership, donations, link to buy me a coffee, also link to the Amazon shop where you pay the same price to help the channel. And so with all that said, if you did like the video, please do give it a thumbs up. Share the video with a friend, leave your comments, subscribe, hit that notification icon, and good eating.